Hi, this is Bob Shea. I wrote these stories and I'm going to be reading them and then posting them up to YouTube. Thank you very much for listening. Muire Ann Maguire, Meav coyle, and Cara Black are friends, and they also travel in the same caravan of first people of Ireland that have traveled together for as long as any of them can remember. First people of Ireland are outsiders call them the travelers or the walking people, but they're actually the first people of Ireland. They have traveled together for as long as any of them can remember, and they pretty much understand the rhythm of life that they have been born in. Well, this was the long. I didn't mean to read this one at first, but I'll read it. They had been born into. During the summer months, they traveled to Kerry, and they and their family and friends are harvesting the grasses and hay each day all summer long. And then in the fall, they traveled to Donegal for the potato harvest. And they and their families and friends are harvesting the potatoes each day all fall. And then they make it through the winter months as best they can. And then in the spring, it's over to Galway for the planting season. And they and their family and friends are sowing the seeds and planting the plants each day for the entire spring. It's the rhythm of the life that they have been taught, and it is the rhythm of life they understand. Let me try this. Okay, that helps. But lately they hear their parents talking about modernization and their great fears for the future. They've lost some of the farms they harvest that these new farms have bought. These farms that they lost had bought invested in new machines that plant and harvest at lightning speed. They wonder how their way of life will continue into the next generation. Always speaking in whispers, they don't think their children can hear them, but they can. With these new machines, the metal hands that can do the work of hundreds of families that used to earn their daily coin in the fields and are now quickly being displaced by technology, told that they are no longer needed and let go. What is to become of them? What is to become of us? That should not be the concern of children, but it is. Muire Ann Maguire, Meav coyle, and Cara Black don't really have the time to worry about all that. They shouldn't have to really, because they're young, their futures are bright. When they're not working beside their parents in the fields, they're talking about going to school someday and learning to read and write someday. And then about spending all their time reading books about pirates and adventures, dragons and journeys and true love and heartbreak, life's losses and loves, and dreaming about faraway places, always dreaming about faraway places. And also they would daydream in the fields about falling in love and getting married someday, fantasies where they are swept up and carried away and their life changed forever. That is when life will truly begin for them in a perfect kind of way, not what they're living now, traveling from farm to farm and working like adults when they're not adults, they're children. And as each year passes and they move no closer to any of their dreams, they will all soon set aside their plans to learn to read and write, for they know that learning to read and write is the key to all of their dreams. It's the key to their futures, a key that will soon escape from their grasp. Yesterday they were too young for schooling, and today they're too old for all of that silliness now. So now they feel like they have missed their chance at learning to read and write. They fear that they are losing the key to their futures. They have seen the older girls marrying the first boy that shows any interest in them, who pays any kind of attention to them, sees them as an individual, and they fall madly in love with the idea that they matter to someone. And soon they are with child and they really do matter to someone. just not the one who they fell in love with, who now feels trapped himself. And the rhythm of life that they all have been born into, continues on for another generation. But for these three girls, Muire Ann Maguire, Meav, Coyle, and Cara Black, even though they are following the same road as their parents did, they will find that the rhythm of life has changed. The world moved on without them, not only for them, but for everyone around them, for the future has arrived, and it is a new world now that they find themselves in. Whether they are ready for it or not, the machines now do the work that their families used to, and there is just no work for the first people of Ireland anymore, who can't get jobs, with no rights, and under every sign that says work is wanted, in parentheses is written no walking people need apply, because we don't hire your kind here. In the country that used to be yours, we don't hire your kind here. How can you justify taking a job away from a real Irishman? Let's debate this, shall we? A real Irishman. We were the first Irishmen, but we listen and we don't complain and just walk on. We are the first people of Ireland, trying to do our best to earn our daily coin. Another summer or two passes and there aren't many farms still willing to hire people, as they call us, left. Walking people, as they call us, left. So the caravan of first people, no longer connected to the rhythm of life, continues down the road, now always on the road. We pull over to fish and hunt rabbit. We've got to keep our families fed and our bellies full. And when we can no longer keep our bellies full, we'll starve to death along the side of the road. Now word is spreading about spots where day laborers can get a day's pay. But when the locals discover these spots, they're shut down, driven off. Yet somehow their parents and the caravan survives. They make do and get by as best they can in a hostile world, surrounded by strangers who came to our lands and who don't have a drop of sympathy or compassion for the first people of Ireland, for each other, or for anyone else for that matter. They are a very cold and heartless people that we live amongst. The first people of Ireland never surrendered and refused to let the strangers who came to our land and stole our land steal our smiles too. With always the hope of a better tomorrow, we just continued on down the road, just a little further on down the road, for all these many years. Which brings us to the present day, and three members of the first people, Muire Ann Maguire, Meav, Coyle, and Cara Black, were out walking, staying close to the campsite, but not too close. And they chanced upon a wagon that had gone off the road. So they climbed down the embankment, and they found a turned-over wagon and an old woman lying on the ground beside it. They helped her up, and together they righted her wagon. But there was no way they were going to get it up the embankment. Then Cara Black ran back to get help, and soon they had the old woman's wagon back up onto the road. "Are you one of us, one of the first people?" They asked her. "No," she said, "I'm a gypsy, one of the Roma people. I'm the last of my caravan. 10 years gone by now. It's been a lonely road since I lost my people. In the caravan, we had crossed through the wrong town at the wrong time back then. That was a town without pity, and I was lucky to escape with my life. None of the others did. The others just weren't so lucky. And since then, I've been on my own, and now the town that I just left, it's not a good town for you to sit down for a piece in either. You'd just be asking for trouble if you go through that town. Just keep on going. What happened to you there?" The girls all wanted to know, and she told them how the people back in that town down the road a piece had asked for their fortunes to be told. And that's how she makes her daily coin, and she made most of them happy. But when they asked her about their town, and she told them what she saw, they did not like what she had to say, and when she offered her services to help them to break the curse that their town was under. They saw that as proof that she was a fake just trying to steal their money. So they chased her out of town, but her horse was old, so it was more like they walked her out of town. And when they got to this point, they unhooked her horse and chased it away. Chased Scaredy Cat off, and I don't know if I'll ever see her again," said the old woman. Uh, um, and then the townfolk pushed the wagon with the old woman inside of it off of the road. They didn't have to do that. It wasn't her curse. It wasn't her curse upon the town was under. Um, she Who amongst them wished them ill? That's what they should have asked her. But they didn't. I'm just a gypsy, a daughter of the light. We lift curses and break spells, and we wouldn't dare go near any of that black magic stuff or the darker science. That is not our way. We are children of the light, not the dark. So I wish good luck to them and let go of any hurt I may feel towards them, because I saw what was coming for them. That's the town in trouble, and it ain't going to be pretty. So Ann Maguire's father let the old woman hitch her wagon to the back of theirs, and the caravan of First People of Ireland headed off down the direction that the old woman's horse had taken off in. And the next morning they found it just off the road, gazing on some grass. The old woman retrieved her horse and hitched him back up, and then she asked if she could ride along with us for a spell, and we agreed to let her join our caravan. She had been through so much. She looked rough, and her wagon looked pretty rough too. They couldn't just abandon her by the side of the road, so she told us her name was Fair Bly Valentine, and we all called her Fay Fay. I'm not sure if we came up with that name or if she mentioned it one and we adopted it. For the time she traveled with us, the three of us really became good friends with Fay Fay, and we spent all our free time with her in her wagon, learning the way of the gypsies. She taught us everything about the way of the gypsies and about crystals, so much about crystals, everything about crystals, till we were quite expert in the field, or so we thought at the time. And she taught us how to use crystals to focus vibrations and to lift curses and break spells, and she started to teach us how... it jumped a little. How to break spells, and she also started to teach us how to read and write. All of our secret dreams were to learn how to read and write, and she would tell us stories that would fire our imaginations. And till one day we held a ceremony with tea and cookies. She loved her tea, and she presented each of us with our own small bag of crystals. You must grow these crystals like I taught you, and they will serve you well. And we promised her we would. And she told us that now we are full-fledged gypsies from that moment on, and that it was now our duty to uphold the gypsy way of healing the world one reading at a time. One day we arrived at her wagon after finishing our chores. We announced ourselves and climbed into Fay Fay's wagon, and we found that she had passed away during the night. We were heartbroken and we cried our hearts out. Then our parents buried her and the entire caravan attended the funeral, except for the really old people who never leave their wagons anymore. The surface was beautiful, and we all cried, especially the three of us, because we loved her so much. And she loved us. She really did. And as her only surviving family, at least as far as any of us knew, the three of us were as close as she had to family anyway. So we moved into her wagon. When she had her wagon, we were still a part of the caravan, just now with a little more independence from our family, and still only a few wagons away from home. All of the wonderful gifts she had given us, all of the lessons about crystals, about the gypsy way, and all of the wonderful stories she had shared with us, the wild stories that would fire our imaginations. We owed so much to that little old woman, Fei Fei, who came into our lives bringing such light and love with her. And now, many years later down the road, I think back to that time that my friends and I shared with her with great fondness and melancholy, as I myself find myself now a part of a new caravan, just like Fei Fei had with us. Having lost my loved ones, the caravan of first people I had grown up with, I had been born into, uh, they met a similar fate as her, passing through the wrong town at the wrong time. Life can be so cruel for for outsiders, for minority groups, and the first people of Ireland were no exceptions. The gypsies and Roma, and the list goes on and on as we carry on down the road. Um, just a little further on down the road. Okay, that was that was like part one, and part two is very short. I'll read that next. Thank you very much for listening.